in the C-suite in 2024, and we're already seeing it at the start of 2025. From Southwest to Panera, just to name a couple of companies. And there's new data out from recruitment firm Calder showing finance chiefs in the S&P 500 spent an average of 4.9 years in their role in 2024. That was actually slightly up from the previous year. Nina Trentman is a senior editor here at Bloomberg, and she is the author of our CFO Briefing newsletter. Talk a little bit about this, because I feel like every day I come into work, I'm seeing another headline of a CFO leaving, or they're searching for a new CFO or a COO or something like this. Is this just in my head, or are we actually seeing this show up in the numbers?
Well, it certainly feels as if there has been an acceleration of people who are changing jobs. If you look at the latest Chris Calder data from last year, it showed that the number of CFO changes was approaching 15%, which is a 10-year record. And so I guess that illustrates a number of things. First, companies are looking to see, do we have the right people in the role, especially here in the U.S., where companies are facing a new administration.
Let me just stop you there, because what is that role? Because it's not like just being a bean counter, and you kind of front ran me there with the administration here. I mean, we're entering a much different world, potentially.
Right. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that it's not just a bean counter role. It used to probably be that, but we go back 20, 30 years. Now, what we're hearing increasingly from recruiters and from companies is that the CFO role is very strategic. So it's basically the number two to the CEO, and increasingly we're seeing these people take on additional roles in supply chain management, in procurement. We're thinking about Trump, that also potentially means tariffs. CFOs will also play a more important role there. And so I think what we're seeing is that the CFO is in this position where they are seeing a lot of things. They're basically seeing all the numbers, and they're seeing what's going on inside a business, and that is increasingly a broader role. And so I think it's interesting to see that we have seen this increase in turnover. Of course, we're also seeing this, that more baby boomers are retiring. That is also something that is driving fluctuation and change. And I think we'll probably see potentially more moves this year, because companies are realizing, okay, well, the new administration is bringing new policies and new challenges for companies, and they might realize, okay, well, are we really well prepared?
So there's been a change in the amount of CFOs, the turnover, the tenure, and so on. What is the state of mind of the CFO going into a year where all of that is on the agenda? And it sounds terrifying to me.
Yeah, to me too. The interesting thing is, if you look at recent surveys, you see that many CFOs are pretty optimistic going into this year. So recent data by Deloitte, for example, indicated that 67% of CFOs say now is a good time to take risk, which is significantly up from the 2-year average of 37%. So it seems that whilst people are aware that there's uncertainties and there's risk, they seem to be more on the optimistic side. And I guess we'll see what this new administration does and how this plays out, and if it actually is justified.
I'm going to ask you a question. Maybe you can't answer it, though. But just getting back to the Jen Pipesec thing and J.P. Morgan, and the idea that she would kind of publicly state that she doesn't necessarily want to be, or not publicly state, but that she stated that she didn't want to be a CEO. Do you find that there are folks out there like that, kind of these folks who are in the C-suite, but they don't necessarily want to be king or queen? They kind of are happy just being kind of that second or third level down, I guess, where you have, a little bit of money, a little bit of power, but not all the scrutiny that the person at the top gets.
Yeah, I think it's fair. There is, if you look at executive careers, there is a fair amount of people that become CFO, and then they become CFO of a bigger company, and then another CFO. So there are these people that stick to that role because they found it and they like to operate in it. But we're also, of course, seeing an increase in people who become CEOs. So that was also one of the trends in recent years that Chris Calder pointed out. I think between 8 and 9% of CFOs become CEOs. So you see also that the CFO position is increasingly that bench for people to then ascend to the top spot. Plus, we're also seeing CFOs adding additional responsibilities, like, for example, taking on additional roles as president, which Harley Davidson just did. So we're also seeing sort of that expansion of the role.
And as you say in your latest newsletter, the criterion that people are looking for right now has been there, done that. So they want CFOs that have seen it all. Our thanks to you. And
for the record, I wouldn't mind being a CEO. Can you work that out for me?
A CEO or a CFO?
Well, do I have to be CFO first and then?
No,
I'd rather just skip all that process.
I'll try it.
That is Bloomberg's Nina Trentman. Thank you so much for joining.